Hello folks, it is time for another kit review video, and today I'm going to be reviewing this, the awesome Huntsman Swiss Army knife from Victorinox. As always with my kit reviews, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the features of this, talk about why I like each individual feature, and then wrap up the end with an overall statement on why I like this knife so much. So let's have a look at those features. So here is the knife in all of its folded glory. It's pretty small, making it ideal for an everyday carry, and that size is 91mm long by 21mm high, and it weighs 97 grams. So for such a small size, this knife really does pack a lot. So let's have a look at some of the features of it. I'm not going to dwell too much on each one, but I do want to talk about some of them in a little bit more detail. So to begin with, we've got the classic fold out large blade. So the most commonly used feature on the knife and present on pretty much all Victorinox knives. Not sure on the length of that, but this is a really good drop point blade which holds an edge really well, and it also tells us that this is an officer issue knife, so it's the kind of classic, the new version of the classic Swiss Army knife, and on the other side it does tell us that all the metal used is stainless steel. Yeah, it's a largish knife. On the other side, one of the features that I've always loved about these knives is this smaller blade. So kind of, again, it's a drop point, but it's a lot smaller, and it's ideal for those little tiny fine jobs. And I like to use this for little bits of carving. A lovely little addition. It's really nice to have those two sizes of blades, because sometimes the big blade is too big and sometimes the little blade is too little. Also on this side, we have got the fold out wood saw. So my gut instinct with these little folding saws is that they're never going to be any use to anyone because they're just too small, but the amount of times that this thing comes in useful for like cutting small notches into stuff, when you've got a saw across the grain, cut across the grain of a piece of wood, but something like a silky or a backhoe is going to be far too big, this thing is absolutely brilliant, and it excels at cutting like little things like plastic. I've used these on courses to like cut open bits of EpiPen and stuff, and this saw is really useful for that, and it's just a handy little thing, especially if you're using like a little twig burner or something and you don't want to carry a big saw with you. This is absolutely ideal. I love this little feature of it, although it's criminal how little I actually end up using that, really. Also on this side we have got one of my absolute favourite features on this knife, and it's a pair of scissors. I cannot overstate how useful it is to often have a pair of scissors on you. These are great for cutting small bits of rope, they're good for cutting fabric if you're using charcloth or anything like that, and they just do all the jobs that a knife can't do. One of the things that these do get used for quite a lot is if I'm on a hike or whatever and I've got a toenail that's like a little bit big or it's digging in or something like that. I have used these scissors quite a lot for that, and also for like cutting open the packets of dehydrated meals, so you can kind of turn them more into a bowl rather than a big bag you've got to shove your hand into. Really awesome, useful bit of kit, and these things are super sharp. It's amazing the things that they can carry, and they're just lovely precision scissors that are just nice to use. It's really satisfying to kind of snip with them. And then finally on this side, I'm going to do these two together because they're very similar. So we have got, just get it open. So on one side, we've got a large flathead screwdriver, which is attached to a bottle opener. So apparently this bit is a wire stripper here. It's something that I've never really found the use for in terms of sort of stripping wire, but one thing that I have used this for is for stripping the bark off really narrow spruce roots. Comes in really helpful for that. I'm not sure if you can just quite see that there. This little notch is great for stripping things like that. And then similarly on the other side here, we've got a smaller flathead screwdriver. The light's causing me some problems. We can just see it on the end there, and this is attached to a can opener, and this can opener has been used so much. The amount of times that I've just been like camping, or when I had the van, I'd be out in the van and be trying to open a tin of food and be like, oh, for God's sake, I have forgot my tin opener. And this thing comes in really useful. If you know how to use these as well, they're actually incredibly easy to use. I know people do struggle with them. If people aren't sure how to use these properly and effectively, that is like a little mini tutorial I could do at some point, but it's really useful. I haven't really used the mini screwdriver on this too much. I've just never found much use for it, but it's just nice to know it's there. This one, the large flathead screwdriver with the bottle opener, has come in quite a lot, and of course obviously the bottle opener has really come in for opening bottles of beer on the trail and what have you. So that is one side of the knife. Okay, so we've got 3 layers to that side, and we've got 3 layers to the other side as well. So on this side, we've got, again, some really nice features. A feature that I use an awful lot is this little awl here. It's incredible. It's almost like having a little screwdriver in your pocket. So I've used this for boring holes in all kinds of things, in toggles and stuff like that. I've used it for stitching leather, because you can use that little hole in it there. Just put my finger behind it, you should be able to see it. For like taking the thread through. I've used it for all kinds of things, for just like reaming out holes and stuff like that. It is kind of sharp. It is a bladed edge with a little point on it, so you can kind of really get hold of that and drive it into stuff. I do apologise, the sun is all over the place today and blowing things out a little bit. So that's a little awl on there. Then in the middle, we have got this weird little thing, and I've seen so many debates about what this thing is actually for, but then Victorinox not long ago actually released an official statement about what this is, and it's actually a parcel carrier. So back in the olden days, where people would parcel things up using string, the idea was you would hook your string on that, and then you could use the knife as a handle for carrying it. I have used this an awful lot for all kinds of different things. So I have used this a lot for untying really difficult knots, because you can kind of get that around the, like, it's perfect for a bit of paracord. You can kind of get that around the paracord and like pull bits out where you need to. But one of the things that this is really useful for is tying your shoelaces tight, where the kind of laces cross. You can get this in and pull them tight where it might be otherwise a little bit fiddly with just your fingers, and it works absolutely brilliantly for that. In the past, I've also sort of bundled up stacks of firewood with paracord, and to make the whole lot easier to carry, hook it on this just like it's intended use for with the parcel. So that's a really, really lovely little feature. It's got all kinds of, just a little hook has so many different uses. I've used it even for like really pulling tarps tight if I'm using like a trucker's hitch or something, so it's not digging into my hands. And then finally, we've got these two little features here. So we've got a corkscrew, talk about that in a second, but in the corkscrew we've also got this really diddy little fine screwdriver. Now for me, this thing has come in so useful. I'm not sure how useful it would be for a lot of people, but that is the size of screw that most camera and recording equipment uses. So if I ever have to sort of do stuff for this YouTube channel, like taking bits of stuff apart, like taking lenses apart to give them a clean, or I've even repaired my sunglasses with this at one point on a hike. So very, very useful to have that. And I love how clever it is that it just screws nice and tightly into that corkscrew, and there's no risk of it coming out because it's got this like little notch here, so it can't fall out this way. Corkscrew, obvious use for the corkscrew is it's great for opening bottles of wine and stuff, and believe me, that has come in useful on quite a few bothy nights. But again, one of the things that I've used this corkscrew for fairly regularly, because I work with children in the outdoors, they're really good at tying knots super tight, and you can actually use that corkscrew to kind of get into the knots and then pull bits of cord out so that you can untie them a little bit more easily. Because it's got that point on it, you can kind of screw into that knot, and it's really, really useful. You could also use it for boring holes and stuff. I've tried that a little bit, but not really had much luck with it, but I have seen others doing it. And then the very last feature on this side, something that blew my mind recently while I was making sure I got all my research for this video just right. Now, I've had this knife for about 8 years, and I didn't know that this feature even existed on the knife until about a week ago when I started researching this. Because just in here behind the corkscrew, we have got something that I wish I had known was there. We have got a tiny little pin, and there are so many potential uses for a tiny pin when you're out in the woods on the trail, not least things like lancing blisters, or like just, I don't know, poking holes and stuff, pinning things together. It's just a cool little thing that's tucked away there. So if you've got one of these knives, check if you've got that, because it's literally been there for years and I never even knew it existed, and it just tucks in that little hole there. Also on this side, we've got this little hook here, which has a little keyring on it. So you can see I keep my keyring on a piece of paracord. This knife lives in my pocket literally every day. And this bit of paracord has a loop in the end, and I just loop it. I just loop it through my belt, not through a belt loop, but through my belt itself, so that I can't lose it. And that's just not going to go anywhere. It's a really, really, it's not a flimsy keyring, this. It's a nice, solid, sturdy keyring. And I just love the build quality of this whole thing. I'm not sure whether that actually tucks away. It's been like that for a long time. Does it? It doesn't tuck away, so it's just sticking out there, that. But that is a nice little feature. So yeah, if you want to see the other stuff that I keep in my pocket, just click the little button up here if you're using a mobile device or something, that will take you to my sort of pocket dump video that I did a while ago. So we've got another couple of features on here. So one of the features, again, really useful. Oh no, that's not the one I was going to talk about. So one of the features here, again, really useful if you're out in the woods. We've got a little tiny pair of tweezers, great for things like pulling splinters out and just grabbing little bits of stuff. I've used these for removing ticks in a pinch. Nice to have those. You could do your eyebrows with them and stuff as well if you're going on a night out. And then on the other side, we've got the classic toothpick. Does get used when we're eating them steaks and stuff in the woods for picking those bits out. And then finally, we've also got a little pen. Now, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this pen. It has been used and it has come in for like taking notes and stuff. You know, if somebody's like passing me a number or some details, I don't have a pen on me because this knife's always in my pocket. This has been whipped out, but to be honest, it's a little bit tricky to grip, so you can't really write neatly with it. And if it's cold, it just sort of slides through your fingers. But it is very, very useful for having that. I've literally used that a few times as well for like I like to write in my journal, so that has been my journal pen. It's just a nice little thing to have, and it's just making use of a bit of otherwise redundant space there. Can't remember how that goes in now. There we go. Just like that. So that's all of the major features of this. So this is the classic red style Swiss Army knife. We've got the Victorinox logo there in stainless steel, and then these are also customizable. So my sister bought me this many years ago. You can see it's got Forester Bushcraft written on it there. Brian, if you're watching this video, I know you love to see, it's like your favourite thing, knowing that it says Forester Bushcraft on there. It did actually have my name on it in the past, but for some reason on this side it's completely rubbed off while it's been in my pocket. But this one has stayed really, really nicely. So yeah. So yeah, this knife really does pack in quite a lot of features in such a small size. It doesn't go overboard and it doesn't have too little. It's just right. There's enough stuff on it to make it useful and worth carrying every day, but it's still small enough that it's comfortable to carry around in your pocket every day, and you just sort of forget that it's there. And of course, to make sure we don't lose it, you can tie that bit of string onto it, and that is a wonderful little feature because these things do fall out of pockets and stuff. There's been a lot of times where I've kind of like stood up from sitting down like this and I've felt it drop to the floor and I'm like, oh, my knife. I do keep the string quite long on this. So quite often in the pocket it's wrapped up like this and then the string is out. And that just means that when it's attached to my belt, I still have like a decent, like the string is longer than my arm, so I still have a decent range of movement on that, so it doesn't become like restrictive in any way. And it just sits in that pocket really, really nicely. Like I say, there's a lot of features on there and each one is actually useful. They do get used really quite regularly. To me, there's nothing that's really redundant on there apart from maybe that pen most of the time, but it does come in a pinch. But one of the things that I love about this knife, I do have, this model of knife has a special place in my heart because they were originally released, I think it was 1991, so like mid-90s when they've been around for a couple of years. I would have been about 10 years old, and some of my earliest memories of being in the outdoors was me and my mates going down the woods, and we all had the oldest version of this particular knife. The one I had back then is lost to time. It's buried under leaf litter and tree roots somewhere, lost to history. But yeah, most of my earliest outdoor memories revolve around me and my mates just going down the woods with these knives and feeling like we're invincible and we could do anything. And we'd go down the woods and make spears and catapults and randomly just peel the skin off branches. Stuff that I would probably frown on today, actually. They are really, really useful and lovely, and it's just a nice thing that I have so many memories of this particular model of knife, and it's, I think, probably the only bit of kit that I really get like sentimental about. And then, like I say, the original one that I had got lost, and then quite a few years ago now, my sister bought me this one for Christmas one year, and it's a bit scraped and bashed and worn in and needs a good clean. But like I say, it does literally just live in my pocket every single day. There is one feature that I did forget to kind of mention as well. So it's not really a feature, it's this folding saw. This does have another use. And as always, people on the internet have a good habit of being wrong. So people will tell you that you have to use a particular type of metal to be able to strike a ferro rod. You do not. You just need the right angle and it needs to be hard enough. So one of the things that's really cool about this saw is at the top of it is a 90-degree angle, so we can scrape our ferro rod with it. So if you haven't got a striker, I never carry one. I always carry something else that can be used as a striker for that. You can use the back of your Swiss Army knife. You can't use the blades, it has to be the saw. The blades all have rounded tops, but the saw does have a 90-degree angle on it, so it's great for striking your ferro rod. And that actually gets used a lot for starting my my sort of little stove when I'm out hiking or whatever. So when I'm out hiking, I don't carry a fixed blade knife, I carry this knife. And then when I'm in the woods, I carry both. I literally have this in my pocket all of the time. I absolutely love this little knife. They are absolutely, utterly fantastic. So there you go, folks. That is the Huntsman Swiss Army knife from Victorinox. If you haven't got one, go get yourself one. They are well worth the money. I think, I don't know what the price of these are at the minute. I think if you buy it direct from Victorinox and you can customise it, I think they're about £40. So totally worth absolutely every penny. Really well made, excellent quality, and they will last you a lifetime. So there you go. That is it. The Huntsman Swiss Army knife. My very, very favourite piece of outdoor equipment. So there you go, nice quick review. Hope you all enjoyed this. Hope you all got something from it. Please do leave me a comment, leave me your thoughts on this knife. And as always, take care of yourselves, enjoy the outdoors, and bye for now.